Our life is to produce something good for the world. The major danger for most people is that they're inflated, false self, pride. They do think they're the centre of the universe, which is what the secular society encourages the whole time. There's something more than that that's possible. The classic Pilgrim's Progress, the search to be wealthy or famous. Teresa talks about in the first mention, got to challenge the drive for honours and riches and business.
Worldly achievement.
Worldly achievements. Most people are searching for that. But there's a problem. In midlife,
it's a price to pay.
It all goes. Hansel and Gretel, Cinderella's, they're all talking about the treasure heart because it is hard to attain.
The philosopher's stone, it's not a gem or something you find, it's a human attitude. Listening to you, it's really inspiring because it seems like there's a great freshening of interest.
There is, and that's the sign of the new time, is Aquarius. We become water bearers.
Is this what the people used to say, the age of Aquarius?
We are in the age of Aquarius. Become water bearers.
Julienne McLean practices as a psychologist, Jungian analyst and training supervisor in North London, as well as being a spiritual director and retreat conductor. She's been in private practice for more than 30 years. She's had a lifelong involvement with the Christian contemplative tradition, with a particular interest in the relationship between modern depth psychology and the Theologica Mystica. She's taught on the Jungian analytical training for qualified psychotherapists, organised by the IJA, London and St Mary's University, Strawberry Hill, London and Sarum College, Salisbury, where she is a visiting scholar in Christian spirituality. Since 2018, she's been involved in the Centre of Applied Carmelite Spirituality as a lecturer and accompanier on the Carmelite Spiritual Direction Foundation program. She's published many papers and is the author of two very important books, Towards Mystical Union, and more recently, The Diamond Heart. Julienne McLean, delighted to talk with you again.
Thank you very much.
These two books, Towards Mystical Union and The Diamond Heart, two very, very important books. Would you tell us a little bit about what first drew you personally to the interior castle and Teresa of Ávila?
I was a seeker as a child. I was always looking for the journey in God. In fact, in the first paper in the book, which was a dedication to Dr. Gerhard Adler, who was a close associate of Jung, in my gratitude paper, I actually have some notes really of my early life, that I even had religious visions and sensibilities quite strongly as a child, which is not unusual. More than half the population have these experiences, but they don't know what to do with them. And then as a good young Christian, I went to church and was very involved, but I knew something more was calling me. And so that was my pull to study psychology, even from the age of 16, and keep on searching and looking. And then I came to London. I did my master's degree in psychology, still seeking and looking. And as I write in this article, in the late 90s, there was always a sense of dissatisfaction, something wrong, something empty, something that just didn't fit. And a long time after, they're classic descriptions of the search for the inner life and religious life. And even Jung wrote about this, but all the great religious teachers write about what's called the spiritual path. So I kept on searching and looking, and the Christian mystical path opened its doors to me in the late 20s, and I was learning in a spiritual group, and the person who led it was very experienced, and he recognized that I had a great interest in that. And so the path opened up, and for me it was connected to the Carmelite Saint Teresa of Ávila and John of the Cross, and it was the text Interior Castle that opened its doors to me as my route to a deeper relationship with God. And so that fulfilled a sort of vocation for me to look at the text and over many years provide a commentary which was published in 2003. And as been shown over the years, it has been very useful for people because it's really an interface, as what you read, between depth psychology and Christian mysticism. And so I could weave the two traditions together, spending kind of a decade really together. And so it's a sort of interface between the two, but also what many, even Jung was saying in his later life, that we're in different times now. The traditional religious symbolism for Jewish people, Christians, Muslims is changing as the century that we're in is more psychological. People are searching deeply for, who am I? Who am I?
Yeah.
So, like the Diamond Heart talk, we have to have our subjective path of looking at our psyche, looking at ourselves. And often psychotherapy, spiritual direction, all these paths are, if you work with someone who really helps the person with the teaching, you really find out, have a sense of, who am I? Who am I that's different to the next person or the next person? Life begins when I am. And a lot of people even stop then because they've come to a sense of not being as anxious or worried, or a sense of happiness or whatever. But then there's another path, which is understood as a deeper path, which is more a religious path, a spiritual path of searching for a deeper part of oneself, where the religion tradition says that God dwells in our center. So this is a monotheistic approach. You've got it in the Jewish tradition, in the Muslim, in the Sufi tradition, the Christian tradition. So this constant search for a deeper connection, revelation, understanding, and the ground of our being in God. So traditions say that the first path is the journey towards God, which is the psychological journey. And then there's another journey of the journey in God. Not everyone does that journey. It's a calling. It involves an encounter with God or a calling from God. And it's understood as a deeper sort of interior journey, which particularly the Christian saints, particularly these great Carmelite ones, St. Teresa and John of the Cross, dedicated their writings to this deeper interior path in God. But also in the Christian sense, it's not for ourselves alone. As Teresa said, it's the waters for the flowers. It's to be people of charity, of love, of giving, of abandonment, to give more to society, more and more and more. And of course, the lives of the saints, that's why they're, or doctors of the church, have lives of this great charity, this great giving to the world. Teresa founds, she's very sick, 17 convents by the end of her life. There are 500 nuns, women in the female ones, and friars in the male branch. So it transformed hundreds and thousands of lives. And even in the Carmelite tradition, the great 20th century saint Edith Stein wrote, she's the patron saint of Europe. She died in a concentration camp. She's beatified, wrote of Teresa's text, I think this is the 1930s. I read Teresa's biography over one night and I was converted because I knew this was the truth. And so this is the story of thousands and thousands of people, that any authentic writings in God can transform us. So that's part of, a few thoughts of my own lifelong experience and journey.
So there's some 15,000 letters that Teresa wrote in her time. Tell us a bit about some of the translations and maybe perhaps some of the letters that have the most meaning for you.
So the letters are an addendum, really.
Okay,
so she wrote 13 books, 11 works of prose, and all the letters. So her principal writings, anyone interested in Teresa of Ávila needs to read. The book of her life, her autobiography, the most famous Christian hagiography of the last 1,000 years. A very important book called The Way of Perfection.
Yeah.
So this was the book for her nuns. It's called the Teresian Gospel. So it's what all the convents had, even up to now, of the Teresian Carmel. The book of her foundation. So this is the story of all the foundations she founded across Spain, from Toledo to Andalusia. So the book of her foundations. Meditation on the Song of Songs, very important text, very unusual for a woman nun to be writing this. A lot of these books went to the Inquisition, and they were worked over by the Inquisition because they were so kind of dangerous, really, and so challenging. And then the Interior Castle she wrote at the end of her life, 1570, as a summary, as a magnum opus of the whole Christian interior life. So from her directing all the nuns, hundreds of people she was in contact with, all the letters, even to the King of Spain, all through Europe. That's the composition of the letters. So she puts the teaching essentially in a summary form in the Interior Castle.
And that's the book that's been the golden thread and inspiration behind your Diamond Heart book.
Yes, it is. So my commentary is called Towards Mystical Union.
Yeah.
So I went to the mountains of Spain, basically, and wrote in a type of ecstasy, or ecstasy, but a retreat in a way, of course, for 2 weeks. And that was the basis of Towards Mystical Union. I did that in the mid-90s. Wow. Took 10 years to publish Towards Mystical Union, 2003. And then it came out in a second and third volume, 2012 and 2017. So the 2012 edition, because I had a spirituality centre here, and I ran lots of study groups on Teresa, she had a teacher called Peter of Alcantara and Osuna. So it's Osuna's text on the third spiritual alphabet, which was her teacher. So Osuna wrote the third spiritual alphabet. He was a Franciscan provincial. The Franciscans were going through their reform in the 1460s. So he wrote a summary of the mystical life. And Teresa had this text, the third spiritual alphabet. It's in the classics of Western spirituality.
That's Francisco de Osuna.
Yes. And what my colleague Peter Tyler wrote in his doctorate was this was the transmission into Spain of the mystical tradition in Osuna, third spiritual alphabet. So Teresa learns about Theologica Mystica in this text. And she says that of Osuna, this was my master in prayer, and it took me to union in 20 years. So in my Diamond Heart book, there are 2 articles that are reprinted from Mount Carmel on Osuna, because no one in the Carmelites knew this or had any scholarly reference to this, because Osuna was a Franciscan.
Yeah.
So it opened up all of this lineage of the mystical Franciscans and the like, all in this kind of milieu of Spain at the time. So Osuna is really important. So the second edition, I have an introduction to Osuna. Then a little bit of an analysis of some of the treatises of Osuna. I won't maybe go into the text now.
This is just for people listening. This is the second edition of your
Of
Towards
my
Mystical
book.
Union.
That's right.
Yeah.
2012.
Yeah.
It's got a brown cover.
Yeah. Right.
And then it came out again, because it sold out, in 2017. Brown cover.
Okay. Yeah.
Same thing. So that's kind of walking around. But why I'm talking about it now, and this is the transmission of spiritual lineage, is Teresa got quite a lot of the symbols, the ideas of mystical theology from Francisco de Osuna.
Right.
And that's why I decided to look at the text. We ran study groups. I knew how great it was. It's a hidden text. No one knew about it except the Franciscans.
I wanted to ask you, Julienne, why do you think that Teresa's interior castle has remained so psychologically and spiritually relevant across all of these centuries?
Well, not everyone would feel and think that. I'm a little bit unusual and specific, but because, like Osuna, she summarized mystical theology. She summarized the tradition of Theologia Mystica. So Theologia Mystica comes from Dionysius the Areopagite in the 6th century, and you see many of the mystical authors over the centuries make reference to Dionysius.
The Syrian monk, right. Okay.
Pseudo-Dionysius the Areopagite. So that's the transmission of, because he wrote various texts that have been very influential in the West. So she incorporated that in this completely brilliant work. Completely unique, completely creative. It was accepted as an authentic work and doctor of the church because she can transmit the authentic Christian teachings of the interior life, let alone the Christian life of virtue and practice. So for many, many reasons. And it's a product of the Spanish Golden Age. The Spanish Golden Age is 16th century.
Yeah.
And it was in her native Castilian. It was no longer in Latin.
Yeah. So
she was one of the first people that wrote these books in the vernacular. So like in England, Tyndale and the Protestant martyrs were translating the gospel into their native language, and they were being persecuted. She was bringing it in her native Castilian, which was a great thing at the time. She even influenced the development of the language. So these great people there, transforming language and religion and spirituality. And there's also another side that she's known as the saint of the Counter-Reformation.
Right.
So she's the great one of bringing brethren back to the faith, that there is the experience of God at the centre, so challenging the Protestant. So she's known as the saint of the Counter-Reformation as well. So this is very much 16th and 17th century.
So from what you're saying, it sounds very obvious that silence, meditation, prayer is all important in inner development, spiritual development, psychological development. Tell us about some of the importance of that inner architecture and how important that inner architecture is.
Well, it's known as the Christian contemplative tradition. So what the Carmelites, in particular Teresa and John, are the great teachers of contemplation. So the first way is the way of discursive meditation, the use of the mind by methods, techniques, which are very useful. The repetition of the word, there are many methods. But the way of contemplation, which they emphasize in the tradition, is contemplation, which is deeper than the mind. You've got the teaching of the prayer of recollection, of how to recollect the mind and those practices, but it's essentially moving to stillness and the heart, which is below the mind. Contemplation.
So deep, quiet contemplation.
Yeah, that's the experience. Yeah.
So Teresa repeatedly warns about illusion, pride, self-deception. Talks about the importance of humility and developing the quality of discernment. Tell us a bit about that, Julienne.
Well, it's the same for all teachers of an authentic spiritual path, whether it's the Sufis or the Christians or the Jewish or the Buddhist, that there are classic attitudes and virtues by which there can be no progress if they are not understood, taken seriously and practiced by all pilgrims on the path. And this is from ancient times. These were being taught by the Desert Fathers. You see it throughout the Orthodox literature, the Philokalia. These are standard Christian approaches and virtues right from the early centuries. So they are humility, and what Teresa talks about in the first mention, the turning to God, the turning away from completely focused on myself towards something greater, more interior, broader, less selfish, less I-centered in just a me way. We have to look at ourselves first in the self-knowledge, but it's not self-aggrandizement.
Yeah.
It's to look at oneself to become more purified in thought and word and deed, to then open up to a greater experience of God. So these are classic virtues. Awakening, that's the conversion. People have awakening experiences all the time.
Yeah.
Metanoia, turning towards the true, the beautiful, and the good, as the Platonists would say. What is beautiful, what is true, and what is good. Self-knowledge and humility, because the major danger for most people is that they're inflated, false self, pride, and they do think they're the center of the universe.
Yeah.
Which is what the secular society encourages the whole time. So it's only people who are called to know and understand there's something more than that that's possible.
So culture, especially social media, encourages that kind of me inflated sense of self. It's I think it's probably the nature of that has always been out there in the previous centuries. It's just
before
now it's in a
social
different
media
form.
yeah. But in a way, if you want to do in the classic Pilgrim's Progress, the search to be wealthy or famous or
to be known, to be talked about
in any way. Teresa
Teresa
talks about in the first mention, we've got to challenge the drive for honours and riches and business.
Worldly achievement and
Worldly achievements.
people receiving honor instead of developing that honor within.
Most people are searching for that. But there's a problem. In midlife,
it's a price to pay.
It all goes. It all disappears. And this is an inner life of goodness, of love for the other, love for God, or something inside, the treasure in the heart, hard to attain. Just die like an animal. We don't do that. We have something precious inside which we have to nurture all our life, like a pearl.
Like a pearl of wisdom,
Pearl of great price.
Yeah, the pearl of great price, hard to attain, the treasure hard to attain.
All the myths and all the stories are all talking about the same thing. Hansel and Gretel, Cinderella's, they're all talking about the treasure hard, because it is hard to attain. And all this teaching of the early stages takes a lot of help, guidance, community, discernment, trust in someone who's going to help, the text, the teaching, the tradition. We need everything.
Yeah.
And
all those mythological stories and the fairy tales, and how many of us can identify with Cinderella? Well, not me, obviously, Cinderella, but the Hansel and Gretel. You know, I loved my parents, and I'm very grateful for them. But there were times, you know, everyone experiences the disconnection of their parents' attention to varying degrees, and that is. I remember chatting with you once, and you were saying, you know, that story of Hansel and Gretel, with the parents that are not emotionally connected to the children, and the brother and the sister, they then have to go and venture out and discover.
So most of these fairy tales are often flagging up a particular psychological problem. So Hansel and Gretel is abandonment, because Hansel and Gretel are abandoned, and the witch is in charge, which is essentially a negative mother complex. And so it's a path of how to challenge the distractive, witchy mother. Cinderella's another problem. So each of them, and some of the great Jungian authors like von Franz have written fantastic books that help with what's the psychological meaning, what's the psychological wound or problem the different stories are trying to elucidate. For example, the Handless Maiden. Handless Maiden is a story of a father complex. She has a destructive father that always wants to destroy her capacity to live, to have agency, and grow up, because she has no hand. So each of the stories, and the Jungian literature is great at it, because I've studied it forever, are flagging up, because when I see certain people, they'll have an awareness of a certain fairy tale, which will be their problem. For example, I have a couple of Cinderellas in my practice. And so it helps elucidate what the deeper wound is in their psyche. So that's the shadow wound that a lot of the stories are trying to give a symbolic narrative of that inner truth.
So they're very good symbolic maps.
They're complete symbolic maps.
And it's very helpful in therapy, isn't it?
It's essential.
In life, even if one doesn't go to therapy, it can be a helpful narrative to.
But people have got to find some way of helping them. Well, what's it talking about? The dreams will show these motives all the time. They're archetypal motives. So they try and get some help in finding, well, what's the wisdom or the path that is trying to be made conscious in myself? What is it? What is this wound that I'm carrying? Everyone's got a type of wound, really. So this is the Jungian psychology, the symbolic function, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. I'm curious, what happens if we don't listen? If we don't pay attention to what's happening to us?
We die.
Sometimes we die inside before mortal death?
The spirit dies, of course. Of course. This is feeding the psyche. We have a healthy psyche, and then the spirit grace builds on nature. The spirit flourishes in a healthy psyche.
Yeah.
If you can be dead. The soil is dead. There's nothing there. And you might look very beautiful and lovely, but that goes in the 50s. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
And people get sick. Their life force is draining out of them because they haven't consolidated the precious pearl. It's precious pearl of themselves. And you see many people in their 50s, they're kind of dead, really. There might be a facade or something, but that disappears. It's the inner life that has something. And they're not producing good fruit from the garden. They're not producing anything.
Yeah.
Our life is to produce something good for the world.
Yeah.
The good smell of the flowers, the good fruit, anything. That's our function.
Whatever that production is, yeah.
Yeah, we're good plants. We've got to
good,
produce something for others and the world and God. We have to be productive.
Julienne, what about when people meet false teachers and inflated guru types, whether they're on the internet or not? It's one of the common occurrences throughout the ages, isn't it? People being taken in. And can there be valuable life lessons even when one encounters dark or shadowy, puffed up
of course
guru teachers?
Because we have it in ourselves. It's a reflection of ourselves. It might be outside and inside, so they have to face the dishonest, lying, no integrity, manipulative side of themselves. And if they're waking up, they'll see that they have that part, because their life will show that. Their relationships don't work. You
mean the student, the aspirant, the...
Yes, of course. Of course. That's what you can't
talk
about
even the
anybody
patient
else.
or the client, if they end up in the hands of a therapist, that's not...
Well, that's a little bit different, because all middle-class professions have a code of conduct. They have an ethical code. So they're protected. If something happens, they can go somewhere and make a complaint. Like any doctor, any dentist, any practitioner. It's happening in the government all the time, of accountability.
Yeah.
And accountability is a psychological, we're always accountable.
Like Jung said that the philosopher's stone is not it's not a gem or something you find, it's a human attitude. He quotes the Latin in his works, the dispositio homunum, the human disposition.
But there's a dark attitude and a light attitude. So the dark attitude is an awareness of the darkness in oneself. Corruption, dishonesty, anything. We have it in ourselves. Addictions, compulsions. Addictions are really rife now.
Yeah. I saw Joe Rogan said the other day, he said, social media is like having opium injected into both your eyeballs. So it's now the new opium of the masses is social media.
Of course. But large swathes of the population are struggling with mass addiction. And that's why maybe this podcast and all this knowledge is giving help, treasures, seeds of self-consciousness to say, no, I'm not going to engage in that. I'm going to have a break. No. It's a bit of a monster. Psychologically, I say that it's a monster. Because what it's doing, it's taking over my mind.
So to confront the addiction, whatever the form of addiction is, to change one's own behavior, to wake up to oneself and say, no, even if it's, I'm not going to check the phone first thing in the morning, by the bedside or wherever.
No.
It's the first glimmer of hope of a change in that little tiny habitual change.
But in an ancient way, it's called a discipline. Whatever the discipline is. Just a discipline. I'm going to do this regularity of a practice and then turn it on at a certain point and then turn it off.
Yeah.
It goes off. That is a practice, whatever you want to call it. And in the Benedictine tradition, the Benedictine monasteries have been around for 1,500 years.
Yeah.
Study and work. Work and study. Ora et labora. We have to have a rhythm of study, work and prayer. The rhythm of a healthy life. To study, to have a time of work, and then prayer. Call it silence, being, whatever. You cannot be distracted by whatever most of the time. The brain will fuse. And so this is the way. And everyone knows that. Well, most people I know working with. It's a discipline.
I think most people, they have a quiet knowingness that the discipline is the way.
Of course.
But it's so difficult for so many of us. So we all get caught in
but not
occasionally.
No.
But
a lot
some
of
us
people
can take
practicing.
it to the...
But then one knows. It's like having a banquet of poisonous food.
One knows
and
through
a good
discernment
food.
what to take.
You don't eat the poisonous food. It's a biological discrimination. It's biological.
Yeah.
When I go to various things, I know I have a biological reaction. This is not good for me.
When one trains oneself through good discipline,
that's right.
You become acquainted with that.
That's
because
right.
through the self-knowledge of, that's not good for me, and then being able to discern, discriminate. Right, yeah.
And then Teresa in the first mansion of the self-knowledge. This is walking around self-knowledge. So in my book, I did really quite a large chapter of walking around. And she says, even though you go to the highest heaven, you always come back to the cell of self-knowledge. This is very interesting.
Yeah.
This is self-knowledge. Healthy self-knowledge in that way.
Are there things that would help people, like simple practices in the morning, breathing, meditation, quiet contemplation, or prayer, even for 10 minutes in the morning?
Yeah.
Does that make a dent? Totally.
And there are hundreds of thousands of people, even in this country, that do that. There's the World Community for Christian Meditation. Many thousands are doing that, half an hour in the morning.
So it doesn't need to be prolonged. One doesn't necessarily need to take off and go to Brazil or go to Nepal or Peru. We can do it in our own backyard. Our own backyard is the interior, isn't it?
It's not the backyard, it's the front
yard. Well, the front yard, right?
It's the interior.
Yeah. So one can introduce that into daily life.
Totally.
Just a little bit of quiet in the morning.
Definitely.
So difficult for so many of us to do when we're all rushing around.
But that's the discipline.
But there's a moment of,
It's pure discipline. It's pure effort.
Yeah.
Second mansion, decision, discipline, because the soul knows they have to do it. It's not a choice.
This is the second mansion of the interior castle.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's recollection. If you don't do it, there's no hope. There's no hope because it's too much distraction. So it's a calling by God. Teresa calls it the call of love and ascesis, because our mind is full of rubbish.
So that calling, that's what vocation means, isn't it? Calling is a vocation.
That's right.
Voca, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think we lose sight of. We think it's some kind of, we think it's a job, don't we? We think it's a job or a career move.
But it's
a deep
it's
inner
a calling by God within our soul. It's got nothing to do with the outside.
Yeah.
It can only be that. It can't be anything else.
So both Teresa and Jung emphasize the importance of, introspection and looking inwardly.
Yeah.
But of course, Jung says so many people fear introspection. They fear looking within because, of course, when they look within, there's a lot of stuff in the unconscious. There's a lot of recorded personal history, memory. Sometimes these emerge in dreams. Sometimes a person's driving a car, might come up on holiday, or but generally speaking, you know, people get very anxious about looking within, and they run away from therapy. And I think
not always. I
not
mean,
always.
that's not my
Some
general
people,
experience, and it's gaining more momentum and acceptance in that way. Not necessarily. I think the introverts find it easier if they've got a natural introversion, so they'll be more attracted to that. It's more a problem for the extroverted.
Yeah.
And anyway, for strong extroverts in midlife, they have a very difficult time because they're forced into a natural introversion.
The natural introversion that happens,
Extroversion is the stimuli is outside coming in. The introversion is the stimuli is inside going out.
Right.
That's the introverted attitude.
Yeah.
That's why introverts have greater difficulty acclimatizing, or for all sorts of reasons, to social situations, because they have to go within in a reflective, thoughtful way first, and then acclimatize to then respond to and react to the external environment. And extroverts are the opposite of that.
How important is community and group work when one is on a path or a journey of deeper self-knowledge, spiritual development? And how do we get the balance right when one needs to take time out and not have distractions and needs time alone? How do we achieve the balance or discern the balance?
I think it's a very complex reflection, because basically we are social beings.
Yeah.
However, when there's an interior life that's growing, our choices, our interests, what we're looking for changes. This takes time to discern. And then people are attracted or go to a different group to their usual social group. It might be a philosophical group. Of course, it might be a church or a mosque or a prayer meeting or a dervish meeting. So within those sorts of groups, something more is being offered to the person. So not just a social group of whatever. So it's carrying something. And if the person carries something within themselves, they can carry the teaching or the what's in it for them in the group more within themselves.
Yeah.
And then they can be in other social groups, and then they can bring that interiority out more into the world. So we're all deciding and part of many different types of groups. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
We're all of us part of maybe 5, 6, 7 communities in our life, from family, friends, your school group. Oh my God, isn't that all? People in their 30s and 40s, often there's great difficulty, because if the friends in the school group haven't shifted, they're shifting a lot, the relationships aren't sustained. And then they join a spiritual group or a prayer group or philosophical, because something new is emerging that they need that input. I'm thinking of lots of people I work with, what's happening in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And so I'm translating that here in a way, in terms of different groups, different involvements. And of course it affects one's personal relationships, marriages, and because there's a loss of interest in certain areas and then a re-interest in other areas. So it's very profound.
So Jung would say midlife, the beginning of which is 35, but things really start to descend in the 40s. I remember reading Jung say, a person gets into their 40s, there's a series of depressions and life crises. I remember him saying the 36th year, there's a real tumble that can happen.
I'm not sure it's so aged. It might. I
Mm,
don't know where it is in his writings, and maybe it was in his Swiss collective in a way. Yeah, mid-30s, 40s, but it really starts to increase in the early 40s.
yeah.
And so it has a sense of real dissatisfaction,
Mm,
a melancholia,
yeah.
and they don't know why, and they're searching for an outer cause. I think midlife's like 5 years. The first 2 years is, oh, what is it in the outside world? And then that goes, oh, I'm melancholic. Oh, and then the
Yeah.
dreams will show that. And then the
Yeah.
dreams will show where the life is in them, which will be in a different place.
Yeah.
So that's the creative, that's a transcendent function of a new creative. And that's often when people meet Teresa, John the Mystic, because it's mirroring what's going on within them. Include Buddhist teachers or Vedanta or Sufi teachings and whatever, because it's a mirror of the divine part of the soul, which is being mirrored in a way. Lots of people come to me and say, I'm reading Teresa, and this paragraph is just so powerful for me. So I know that that's speaking to something that's unknown within them.
Yeah.
It has to. It can't be anything else. So that's good. It's lovely. That's how it works.
So it's reflecting something back that they're unconsciously identifying with it, but it's not known to them consciously. It just begins as a seed.
Yeah, the seed of the divine within ourselves.
Wow.
Yeah, really.
You speak very openly and with an authority about the religious function, but of course lots of people are a bit reticent, a bit fearful of speaking about the religious function or their faith. But you, I understand you did a survey, didn't you, of 40 odd Jungian analysts about their religious, and it was a multitude of different faiths across the group of analysts. Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, etc., agnostics, atheists. And the results of that were very interesting, weren't they? About just how important the practices are for those analysts. It was
terribly interesting because I wanted to do it for our summer school, and I knew most of these people, and I knew there wasn't anything in the public domain. And everyone talks about the demise of religion, but it's not true. It's an increase in what's called the spirituality revolution. So it's exploring that. So this spiritual religious beliefs practice was asking them about their own spiritual understanding of their life, what the belief is, how strongly do you hold on to your religious view of life, what the practices are. And then at the appendix of the book, I've got the written responses to the survey, which is really interesting. So none of this is in the public domain. So this is just a small group. And I'm just pulling a few things out. So
Jung said that secular humanism is actually in decline, that it is actually, it's not, he said it just doesn't work. And maybe that's what people are seeking.
But that's the 50s and the 60s.
Interest.
That was 60 years ago, even more so now. It hadn't really got going then. So even now it's much, much more polarized and well before anything, internet or whatever. So it's really, he's prophetic when he talks about that, because he saw the seeds of that in the psyche in the post-war 40s, 50s, and he dies in 61. And then a lot of the post-Jungians carry on that perspective. But most people in this had a practice, hidden, interior, you don't talk about. And I think this is the majority of the population. I really believe that now. But there's no, no one knows it. That's why I did the survey.
Yeah.
You've just got to trust and know that that's the case.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. And there was the evidence, really. It was amazing to see the, the questions. What's the importance of your spiritual practice in your personal life? My rock and foundation, central to everything I do, allows me to bear and try to tolerate difference. I pray regularly on my own and in groups. These are all separate. Underpins how I live my life. It's a soft, subtle sense of the mysterious. On and on and on and on.
Yeah.
So people can do little surveys in their groups.
Very evident, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, yes, but it's hidden.
Because people like to be private about it, or people feel they might be entering into argument with fellow colleagues, peers. What do you think?
It's because the religious foundation is dying of the traditional religious edifice, the establishment. Christianity was founded in the 3rd century by an edict by the Emperor Constantine. Christianity became the religion of the empire. It's the religion of the empire. But that's crumbling now. Empires have gone. There are millions of individuals like Thomas Merton that have light, that are connecting up. It's a new time, a new way. And certainly what you flagged up in one of my other papers, where is that? That's why I wrote it. Let me find it out where it is. Edges of Wisdom, Compassion and Living Waters. So that's the prophetic side of Jung.
This is what Jung spoke about, the fiery heart. You quote Jung in Diamond Heart in your book.
So it's what of the future?
Yeah.
In an interview towards the end of his life, he was asked about the state of the world and the character of the age to come. What comes next? Aquarius, the water pourer, the falling of water from one place to another, and the little fish, which is us, receiving the water from the pitcher. But there's danger in the water on the banks because it's not normal water. It's turbocharged, it's spiritual water, or numinous. As Jung said, the spirit's descending from its fiery heights and has become heavy and turns to water. The water isn't a figure of speech, but a living symbol of the dark psyche. Since the stars have fallen from heaven and our higher symbols have paled, a secret life holds sway in the unconscious. Our unconscious hides living water, spirit that has become nature. So the spirit's fallen into our bodies and nature. It's numinous, it's turbocharged.
We were talking about this some time ago, and I remember saying to you, it reminds me of that the 17th century French treaty, anonymous author from someone at the time.
Yeah.
And it was the aqua vitae, that water that descends. 1 minute it's fire, but it descends into water and then into earth. It's that beautiful, we call it wise poetry. But it's all of 17, 18 lines of that treaty.
But it's
beautiful.
It's really in all the alchemical treatises of the 16th century, it's a traditional, which Jung wrote about in his Psychology and Alchemy. And then I go on. So this is why Teresa and John. So we're seeing revolutionary changes in all the major traditions. And they're attempting to recover their lost, forgotten, mystical sub-traditions. So this is an attempt to remember.
So this is a remembering, a reintroduction
It is.
Of all the traditions.
Everyone wants to remember something that's already built into the psyche. It is these mystical sub-traditions that are needed today because they're equipped to deal with our present dilemma. That is what to do with a psyche which has become activated, even contaminated by sacred, numinous spiritual sources, which is true.
Yeah.
Heavenly water has fallen in, and people don't know, because the traditions protected the human being. They had their symbolic systems. You've got the sacraments and the liturgy and the grades and whatever. That's all gone. People think they know, and then they go mad or they blow up or something because it's turbocharged. The Holy Spirit is turbocharged with all of the psychological understanding that goes with it.
Jung would say, I remember reading Jung saying you'd have to hint at this. He would just drop little hints because it couldn't be received, or whether it was the times, or whether things are dramatically different now. I'm not so sure, but I think listening to you is really inspiring because it seems like there's a great freshening of interest.
There is.
This real thirst and hunger.
Yeah, there is. There is.
To reconnect with the self, but also reconnect with the traditions.
Not everyone would think Jung was prophetic, but he was prophetic, and like all prophets, like in the Old Testament, Hosea, they were speaking about an aeon to come.
Yeah.
An aeon that was coming. That's the prophetic voice, and Jung is one of those, of what is to come. And he also was saying it rests on the individual, the individuation, to take full responsibility of themselves, not blame or project.
So the adult position in the second half
We're
of life.
accountability. We're accountable.
Full self-accountability.
Totally.
The adult position.
Totally.
Which is one of the chief aims, isn't it? Of like we can say therapy, but life really, because what's therapy unless it really helps us move towards a fuller life?
Well, in the Christian tradition, it could be understood as Christ-centered. So I think the saints and the mystics are this. They're Christ. The center is in God. It's not in me. It's in God. And that gives that strength of power to give out to the world, because it's not from me. It's from something in heaven or other that's flowing through me. That's the living water that's flowing through me, like a water bearer, like an Aquarian water bearer. And that's the sign of the new time, is Aquarius. We've become water bearers.
Is this what the people used to say, the age of Aquarius?
We are in the age of Aquarius. Become water bearers. The living water, we're developed enough to hold some of the numinous turbocharged aquavitins, and then for it to flow out of us in whatever way it can. And Jung wrote a lot about that towards the end of his life.
I'm just thinking about that 17th century treaty and linking it with what you wrote in what you were reading out from your book, Diamond Heart. And thinking about the age of Aquarius, and then thinking about the fish symbolism, the remora fish, which is also known as the Echeneus. It's a fish that it looks like it's got a radiator on. It looks like a little dogfish. And it's got a radiator type corrugated forehead, and it can stick itself to any vessel in the sea. But in the 17th century treaty, it says it can arrest the proud vessels of any of the deep blue seas. And I think that symbol is that symbol potentially our being able to arrest and transform our own attitude so that we can become more disciplined, more. I wonder if it relates to our self-knowledge.
I think Jung was much more nuanced than that. So he wrote 3 treatises, Psychology. So he talked about the age of the fishes. So the fishes, which is Pisces, are 2 fishes that are working in opposition with each other. So in his Aeon, volume 9, he has important texts on the fishes. which I think is fuller, and because it is the Pisces that are kind of swimming against each other.
Yeah.
So look on Aeon, because that's his prophetic, I think, understanding of the problem of the age of the fishes.
Yeah.
Light and dark, light and shadow, that we have to face our shadow. That's the other fish swimming in the other direction.
Right.
And that can be the learning from the age of the fishes, which a lot of his writings, and that's the prophetic side. And so it turns into being able to be water bearers, capable of some of the waters of the spirit flowing through us, which is exactly what the Spanish mystics are trying to teach, I think, in a very similar way.
I'm very inspired listening to you, Julian. What gives you hope in the present time and beyond the future, the so-called future?
Okay, I think that's a theological question, because it's a natural outflow of the religious function of the psyche. And if you look over history, the wars, the Holocausts, the demise of empires, there's always been a thread of groups of people that have held on to the hope that God is working in time, all the time, that we might not see it, but there's a seeds of change and transformation. The death and rebirth of cultures, ideas, cosmology, our perception of the world, which has to change. So partly this secular view of the world is dying because it's not working. And all of this AI, whatever, is a function of a particular world view.
What do you think about AI?
Which is dying. I don't know. But I'm just saying it's a secular,
right,
mechanized, mechanical worldview that started from Descartes in the 17th, that we're machines, we're clocks. And we're not machines.
No.
We're just not. So there's another worldview that's on the horizon. It's a worldview that the universe is unified. The unity of being, a unification. We are not machines. So when someone gets that, they'll put the machine over there, because we are not the machine. So this is a conflict in the soul between the machine that wants to control in whatever way, and our soul that's connected and united with God. This is the challenge. This is the water bearer, that we have some of the numinous and it wants to flow. It can't flow in machines. So all of that Jung's talking about in Aeon, and the prophets were talking about, even the Old Testament prophets. There was a new age coming, a new revelation, a new dispensation, and this came to pass. We have another one now, a new revelation, a new dispensation. And I really strongly feel a part of it. Not a voice for it, but there are many, but I feel it really strongly. And we've got to do something with the numinous waters that have been given to us through the saints, through the great ancestors. These are our ancestors.
I wonder how much of what's happening now and how much of what perhaps you're experiencing personally will go into your new book.
Well,
I understand you're writing a third book.
I'm being called to, in a way, and that's nice to be asked in a sort of more public way. I think I'm being called more mystical poetry, a more poetic. So this is where the Sufis influenced me, that it's in not the dance, but Rumi and some of the Sufi, that the transmission can be in poetry. So I'm wondering if it's that, and part of me is gearing up inside for something, and I'm going to Provence with some lovely Christian friends for my birthday, the Holy Mountain of Provence. And I think something's, with the help of Mary Magdalene, something might begin to emerge because it's the path of wisdom, divine. So I feel very connected to a sense of divine wisdom. So I think it might flow out of that. So there's some thoughts at the moment.
I have to ask you this question, Julienne. Who inspired you when you were younger? Who still inspires you now?
I had visions of God when I was a child, of a light, of a presence. Call them the angels, call them saints, call them whatever. It was absolutely real for me. And this is in the Australian bush.
Ah.
Interesting. This poor little thing in the middle of nowhere. Just help me. What on earth is this? I had lots of different visions and things. And so I made a covenant agreement. If you help me, I'll help you. If you give me the help and guidance or whatever, then I have a path or a destiny to fulfill. And I think I was connected, although I didn't have the name, to the saints. I think I was really, whenever anything about Spain or Toledo came up, I'd have a kind of something would happen. So it's a very odd, in a 5-year-old Australian child in the bush, to have that kind of memory of something. And when I first went to Toledo, oh my God, I thought I would explode with something. It was just a memory, a connection. What is this place? It was like it was exploding in light for me. Many people have these experiences in these great places. Cordoba, Andalusia, Istanbul. It's not that uncommon. But for me, it was Toledo, which is where Teresa wrote The Interior Castle. And she had a lot of her major religious experiences, which she writes in her biography.
It sounds like a huge spontaneous awakening that you had.
Yeah. No, it was.
How many years did that last? How long did it take you to come down from that?
I never finished, but I just contained it and waited and was patient and go on the path, and this door opens, this door closes. This person knows nothing about what I'm talking about. This person does know something. Oh, this book does know something. It's a kind of accumulation.
It's an accumulation of experiencing and learning how to, again, discern and discriminate. And you pick a book up and no, not that one.
Listening to people. I have lots of people come to say,
so and meeting a lot of people on the way as well.
But also now, so I'm helping them guide their inner life. What touches you? What awakens you? What deadens you? All these things.
What repulses you, etc.
Yeah, of course.
All of it.
So the path, and then you follow your dreams. I've kept dream diaries for 40 years. I've got them all here. So this is the self-study of one's inner life, the structure of the psyche, which accords very closely to Jung. So slowly on the path, and then it all comes together, and then something happens. If you dedicate your life to God, then something happens of a response. Okay, I'm going to give you a job to do. Are you ready to do it? So the job was to rewrite The Interior Castle. That was the job I was given, which I did. So they're just some of the twists and turns and things like that. So.
Julienne McLean, thank you.
Thank you for the podcast. Thank you for the interview.
You're welcome. Pleasure.